Pointers. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing well. Got a little bit of a different setup today. We're still experimenting with stuff, right? We should have our ring light back. It was found. So we're going to get better lighting in here soon. Ben, good morning, fellow Bitcoiners. Lightning Ben, good morning from Minnesota. We got a lot of Minnesota fans here. We love it. Christine, good morning. Nice to see you, Christine. Hope you're doing well. Hassan, good morning. The best morning. Nobody does mornings better than the breakup crew. Hassan, we love it. We love it. Thank you for the enjoyment of this time we spend together every morning. I too love it. I too love it. Good morning from Vermont, another place I love in the morning, Daniel. I hope you're doing well there. Good morning, Sean recommends. Good morning indeed. Robert, breakup running, BTC running. You're giving away the plot line. You're giving away the plot line. Breakup's running, but let me remind you all, the sun is also up today. So we're good, guys. We're good. We're good. All we got to do is drink some coffee, talk about what's new. I did another last sip today. Assalamu alaikum, BTC under 40K, emptying my bank account, screw the overdraft fee. Yeah, I think a lot of people are. I think I got a little bit of, quite a bit of money coming in today, actually. So I'll probably be doing some Bitcoin buying. I haven't done that in a while. I've been too cash trash token poor. Good morning from a very icy Chicagoland. Happy BTC Tuesday, everyone. Indeed, Jason. Happy BTC. Let me just check and see if Rumble's running, and then we're going to get into the fakest news that I could find, because there's some pretty good stuff today. It's pretty fake out there. Pretty fake. All right, what do we got? Rumble. Come on, Rumble. Yeah, it looks like we're going fine. We'll give it a thumbs up, as I like to do to my own videos. Live chat. Sluggo, good morning. Smartinez04, good morning, Sluggo. Good morning, Bitcoiners. Moran, good morning, LFG Builders. Moran, mix at meetups, indeed. Let's do it. Let's do it. Vaughn Ray with many suns up. Aqualodge with the coffee, with the sun, and with the live long and the prospering. We love it. We love it. We love it. All right. Now, Moscow time. What do we got for today? Well, we got a couple of Fed Reserve policymakers. All right, what were they up to? Well, according to Bloomberg Economics, the Federal Reserve, they're really smart people. They're here to help you guys. They're here for you. Okay, except for these two. Everyone else there is cool and legit. Don't worry about them. It's just these ones. Former Federal Reserve policymakers Robert Kaplan and Eric Rosengren were cleared of all wrongdoing in a years-long probe into their trading activity in 2020. It's fine, guys. They made a bit of money. Don't worry about it. It's okay. It's nothing wrong with running the money system and also making the money that you're allowed to print. It's totally cool. It's totally cool. Everyone loves it. Everybody loves all of the policymakers at the Federal Reserve. They're the best. They're the best. They're the best. All right, what do we got next? We got this one, which is, I said, we're a little sad that we don't have as much WEF content, right? Because the WEF, last week, it was really easy to do Moscow time because the WEF people were meeting all day just going on about shit. So it was like, what did they say today? Well, now that it's a week later, I don't have the same access to that. But there was one that slipped by everyone. It was shared this morning. Big news. But it's like getting up early, how it made you all racist, right? Because you got up too early. That was one of the ones that we saw in Moscow time over the summer, right? Everyone knows how racist it is to get up early, right? It's definitely that. The next one you got to watch out for in Bitcoin Deb. I notice here you're contributing to this. Okay, so you're one of the main problems here, Bitcoin Deb, and this comes from that guy. He knew he was a WEF speaker, so he knows what's up. You should know, all right, that every ton of coffee you drink, Bitcoin Deb, and me, and everyone here, all of you racist breakup morning gatherers, because we do drink a lot of coffee here in the morning, right? Let me tell you something. This is from one of the net zero junkies over at the WEF, and he was French, right? So he goes, you should know that for every ton of coffee produces 15 or 20 tons of carbon dioxide. Okay, so if you drink some coffee, it's like ripping an F-16 through the air. All right, it's like running a jet. So be careful. That's a lot of carbon dioxide your coffee, stupid coffee, is producing, right? This one's good too. You know, we got the wind turbine stuff. This is a farmer in England. All right. A farmer was offered cash and a night out at a lap dancing club if he agreed to having a giant wind turbine on his land. Now, remember this one, okay? Because we're going to be talking about incentives in energy systems soon. The sludge people. The sludge people with their energy systems, with the wind and all that, are down to incentivizing more sludge people, guessing they're sludge people, with lap dances. They're down to the lap dances, guys. Please, please, we want wind turbines. Please, come have a lap dance. We're going to make a wind turbine. We love these people. Oh, so the holidays are over, and CNBC, you know, they've run a few articles like that. What's wrong with the economy? It's you're stupid for worrying about the economy. It's great. You know, these articles they've been running for a while. Well, this one is not in line with those. So I don't think they're ever gonna try and reconcile them, but this is something they wrote. The buy now, pay later holiday debt hangover has arrived as consumers wonder how they'll pay the bills, right? But the economy is fine, guys. It's okay. It's okay. Now let's go back a second to the lap dance and the wind farm, and then, you know, what are we doing with the coffee? It's like running a jet, and then all that stuff, right? Well, Washington Post says how meat and milk companies are racing to ease your climate guilt. A climate-friendly hamburger, a carbon-neutral glass of milk, as companies make bold claims, a heated debate erupts. So guys, if you got some climate guilt, right, don't worry. There's like hamburgers you can eat. We don't know how many bugs are in them. They don't tell you that, but you know, I'm sure that's in their answers. I didn't read the article, so there you go. Now, in case you're, you know, in a city and you've been drinking too much coffee and you're worried about the greenhouse 15 to 20 tons of carbon dioxide with your milk, you know, you're going to get into more trouble. But if you're in a city, right, you might think, well, I'm going to make a little garden. I'm going to offset by having some green stuff on my property, right? If you got the guilt, you know, the Washington Post, the guilt that comes from your milk and your meat, right? If you got the guilt from your milk and your meat, you might make a backyard garden, right? You might want to do that. Okay. But hold on. Bloomberg Energy letting you know that urban farm crops, okay, have a higher energy footprint than those grown in large-scale agriculture, despite urban agriculture's social and environmental benefits. So industrial farming for the win is so much better than doing your own, guys. It's so much, like, it has a less environmental footprint, okay? So don't grow your own groceries. You don't offset shit according to them, right? But, you know, all the guilt, you got the meat guilt, you got the milk guilt. And then if you do the agricultural farming in the city and you didn't trust the industrial farms, boom, more guilt, okay? So then maybe when you're out there buying airline tickets, you're going to be like, what's the carbon footprint? You know how they do that now on Google Flights? The carbon footprint of your flight, right? What's the carbon footprint of your flight? Well, Bloomberg Energy tells you that that's going to continue. They're saying densely packed aircraft, little legroom, and no free drinks. That's starting to look like the uncomfortable reality at 30,000 feet for a greener future. No free drinks, especially not coffee, because it is 15 to 20 tons of carbon dioxide. Okay, so you can't have the coffee either. That's done. This one's also good. You got the buy now, pay later, right? You got, you know, the economy's fine. The economy's fine, guys. No one, and like we heard from Alex Soros yesterday, crime and inflation are gone. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. But they're telling you there's a new app, right, that allows consumers to buy surprise bags of restaurant leftovers. And that's now helping supermarkets sell near expired foods at a discount. Okay, guys, everything's great. You just got to go and get leftovers from restaurants. You know, I actually saw that in Canada this year. I couldn't believe it. Like, I saw an old lady. I've never seen this in my life, like, not even close. I saw an old lady in Canada this year who wore normal clothes, right? She looked like she looked like a Quebecoise. She was born there. And I'm not shitting you guys. I'm not, I don't know where everyone here is from in the world, all that kind of stuff. I've been to a lot of places. I've seen people eat out of the garbage. Okay, I've seen it. I've never seen an old lady with normal clothes in my life eat out of the garbage at McDonald's, but that's what I saw. I saw her going into the garbage in Montreal and pulling out half-eaten hamburgers and eating them. I get people do that in the world, but I had never seen that ever in Canada. Like, and now I saw it, like, for real. I saw it last summer. I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. Right? It was absolutely beyond me. And did you know that was an actual, like, it's a type of cooking in the Philippines? I never heard about this. And they do it. What they do is they go, and it's like a total business. They go to all the restaurants, all right, and they pick up their actual garbage. So when someone doesn't finish a chicken leg, or someone doesn't finish pasta or whatever, they throw it into a special garbage, right? The food garbage, what you would think of as compost. And they put that out back, and there's an actual business of people that go around and pick this garbage up and then serve it in new restaurants. You know what you're getting, all right? You know it is leftovers from a restaurant. You know, it's probably not great for COVID if that if your big worry is viruses. It's probably not great. I don't think it's got like a health. You know, it's probably a good idea to reuse the food, I guess. I'm not going to those restaurants. I'll tell you that right now. I saw the stuff get made. You can see it on YouTube. It's something else, right? But things are going so great in America. We're getting that too. Can you believe how good things are going? It's awesome. We're gonna get, you know, I want to get like a bit of a half-eaten McChicken, you know, and put that into some pasta, because they make new dishes out of it all, right? So they'll like throw some noodles with like chicken bones and leftover chicken. You'll actually get like a chicken leg that's been half eaten in your dish. Like, I saw the stuff they serve. It's all bespoke. It's bespoke, but that's what they do. All right, this one's good too. All right, ready? Are you ready for this one? This is a perfect TDS headline. All right, you ready for it? This is from Politico. They they actually said this. All right. Trump is bleeding moderate support. It could cost him the 2024 election. Oh, Jesus. The trick is not leaving toothpicks in your leftovers. Welcome to poverty, gentlemen. Yeah. Yeah, Canada has taken lessons from Ethiopia, Cal. Look, I'm telling you, that's what I'm saying. I never, there used to be a real line between like developed countries and not developed countries. It was obvious. It, like, when I was a teenager and I would go to all these places, I could really tell the difference in like living standards and quality of life. And this hit me a few years ago. And it was when, you know, because I was living in Asia 20 years ago. And Singapore didn't have like a big skyline at the time. It was a modern city. You were amazed by Switzerland or Singapore already, right? So obviously Tokyo and Osaka were already what they are today. Seoul was sort of up and coming, all that kind of stuff. But when I went back for business in the last, 5, 8, 9 years, things changed. Right? Singapore became a completely different animal compared to what it was 20 years ago. And I remember leaving New York City with a friend, an American fella, didn't really travel a lot in his life, sweet, nice American kid, grew up around New York City, is a New Yorker, all that stuff. And so he goes to his doctor, we're going to Singapore, all right? And we're flying on the Singapore Air Direct. Right, so we're not going anywhere else. That's what all these New Yorkers needed, like the direct flight, right? They don't want to go anywhere else. So direct New York, Singapore, longest flight in the world. So he goes to see his doctor beforehand, and his doctor's like, you're going to Asia, you should get some shots, right? So then a few days later, he comes and tells me, like, sort of secretly, he's like, Nolan, I don't know, you've never been to Asia, right? He goes, my doctor said I should probably get some shots, right? Some vaccines if I go to Asia. And so I started laughing. I was like, okay. You did, no one gave you the memo. All right. You are not going from the first world to the developing world. No. Hollywood might have told you that. You're actually, and this was like a hot New York summer day, so it was particularly filthy and stinky and disgusting. And I'm like, you're actually leaving the third world and going to, you're leaving like an industrial era city. You're leaving the 19th century. New York is a 19th century city, right? In many, many ways. Amazing parts to it, but the noise and the chaos, because it is literally the city that never sleeps. It hasn't taken a break since the 19th century. It's not like Europe that got bombed to shit and then had to, like, London took a break. Like, it slept after World War II. You know what I mean? They rebuilt it. So a lot of these cities got rebuilt, and a lot of them did take a break. They did go to bed. They did take it easy and were rebuilt. I really genuinely believed when COVID happened that New York would actually have an opportunity to, like, dial it down, not be the capital of the world any longer. And I do continue to predict this will be the case. New York will be able to dial it down, not be the capital of the world, because it doesn't need to be the financial capital of the world anymore. And what you would get is, like, actually subways that work, that would be great. And, like, cities that, streets that didn't blow up, that would also be awesome. All these, the steam things that come out of the city, right? So, and you just look at some of the other modern cities around the world, and they're amazing, right? New York is not. It's an amazing city in its own right, but it's not like you can get really sick because it's so filthy. So I remember when that guy said that, and I couldn't help but laugh. I don't think it's the case anymore. Everyone's talking about the underground alleys. So did you see Dom Lucre, who might be a speaker for Bitcoin 2024? He is a local Nashville guy. I've been talking to him for a little while now about him coming to speak. He actually went up to the tunnels in the past couple of days and made a movie about it. So we should find out more. I'm very curious about what's going on under there. But there you go. So this idea of America and Americans, and this anecdote that I said, right, is one of the big things that's about to change. Like, I don't think in just a few years, that was 2018, which was 6 years ago. So 6 years ago, I don't think that fella is asking anything like that question anymore. I think he knows what America has become in the last 6 years, and there's no longer any, like, what are we doing about, getting a vaccine to go to Singapore if you're from New York. And when you read quotes like that on Trump, right, that he's bleeding moderate support, again, this is just sort of America sometimes staring at its own belly button and not realizing how much other stuff is going on in the world. But here's something Scott Adams said, and I think it's relevant to Bitcoin, and it's relevant to understand what's going on, because we saw with the border yesterday, of course, the Supreme Court came out and said that the federal government can remove Texas's border barriers. Now, I haven't really gone deep into the judgment and understood everything that they're saying here. What I do understand is Amy Coney Barrett was one of the so-called conservative judges who went with the liberals on this one. I'm not sure it's so simple as just states' rights versus federal rights and federal superiority. I think the actual borders of the United States of America collectively, the federal government does have jurisdiction on them. So I do believe the question of whether or not the federal government can take down state protective stuff is independent of whether the state can also enforce its own will. Like I think the federal government can keep changing what the state government does, but I don't think they can stop the state government from doing it, if you know what I mean. Like, they can take it down, they can't prevent them from putting it up, if you understand what I'm saying. I think there is a difference. I didn't get that deep into it, but I believe that is the case. The state is still permitted to try again, just like the federal government can't be stopped from taking it down. So they can just keep playing the game. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I didn't get enough of it. But I could definitely be wrong, right? We had Jonathan Turley write, once again, the Supreme Court has voted in support of the position of the Biden administration. Chief Justice John Roberts, Amy Coney Barrett joined the other ones. allowing the administration to cut the Texas razor wire. Yet all you hear from Democrat pundits and professors is the blind bias of the court and its robotic majority. Conservative justices have repeatedly supported the Biden administration or opposed Trump positions when they felt the law warranted such decisions. Yet the mantra has resumed to pack the court once the Democrats secure the White House and retake the House. So that's still around, right? Mike Benz writes, Missouri versus Biden bros, I don't feel so good. So this, of course, is the First Amendment case that we've been talking about and tracking here for a while. I still don't think this affects the First Amendment case. I still believe the Supreme Court is going to rule against the Biden administration for using third-party private entities for its censorship goals. I still think the business model that Mike Benz is talking about a lot, the business model around misinformation censorship and all of that will collapse and the Supreme Court will collapse. So this is a different, I think, logic that goes into here. Can the federal government decide what to do at the border unilaterally? I think so. But so can the state on their own border. So I think it's just a thing where you're not allowed to stop the federal government from doing what it thinks is best, just like you're not allowed to stop the state government here. But I'm not sure, right? I'm not sure. That's what I read. Sticks, Hex, and Hammer writes, command the guard to defend the area with lethal force. And I think that, honestly, like if you say to them, command with lethal force, you might just shoo them out. I don't think there's anything illegal about it. But again, we're getting to the point here where the decentralized nature of America is starting to express itself in ways that would seem unfamiliar to people who've seen the United States exercised legally the way it has been since World War II. But again, what I've been saying for a long time with respects to World War III is that every single one of the major conflicts America has gotten into in its fourth turning cycles, right? If you don't know this little tidbit of history, and if you don't know what the fourth turning historical frame is, it's a model that says that every 80 years, so the life of 4 generations of Americans, but it applies to everyone in the world, but the actual pegs we're using here for years and scales and frame is the American one. So other countries are set to a different time and different clock. But in the case of America, what we found was the country was created in 1776. 80 years later, you had the Civil War. 80 years later, you had World War II. And 80 years later, we find ourselves now. And each and every time, how we describe the United States has also changed, right? So before the Civil War, anyone would say the following: the United States are, right? That's how you used it in a sentence. It was plural, the United States, right? There's more than one state, so the sentence became plural. And that's how everyone from when America was created spoke about America, just how you used it in a sentence, right? The United States are. That's what you said. That's what everyone said. That's what was written. That was the common language at the time before the Civil War. After the Civil War, you started to say the United States is. And we've said the United States is basically ever since, right? It went from a plural thing of a bunch of independent states that joined together within a federal umbrella, which is what federalism is, right? It's not a major league and a minor league. It's not an A team and a B team. It's not a sub power. They're equal powers with the federal government, but they're exclusive powers which are shared and divided in certain ways. So after the Civil War, it became the United States is. And then that kept it going until we created a new reference, which was after World War II, where you started to say the Fed is, right? The Fed, either the Fed Reserve or the federal government or whatever. The federal government was an entity built to win World War II. It didn't really have as much of a role in people's lives in America anyway, as it did after World War II. Now, it did have a big role in Americans' lives during the Civil War, which is the reason why you had a equal and opposite reaction to destroy the federal government after the Civil War. There was a lot of people who didn't want a large federal government anymore. There's a lot of people who didn't want a powerful president like Lincoln, which is why it's very difficult to even name presidents from Lincoln all the way up to Teddy Roosevelt. There really aren't a lot that you can name. I mean, I can name them. Some people can name them, but they're not like historic figures that everyone remembers. U.S. Grant would probably be the most relevant. Bitcoin Deb says, and now it's the deep state. In a way, but the deep state is hidden within the federal government. It's hidden within the monolith of the Fed. It's what we refer to when we say the Fed, not just the Federal Reserve, the federal government. The federal government says, the U.S. government says. So we're changing that now, right? That is what will change. You won't say it the same again. I predict it's going to go back into a circle. We're going to say the United States are again, and we're going to say the United States are because these states like Texas, like Missouri, like others are going to awaken to their sovereignty, to their statehood, and they're going to use the vestigial muscles that they've let atrophy, and they're going to exercise them. And we're going to see that more and more. We're going to see, I believe, this is the type of stuff that's setting us up for Texas to exercise its constitutional right to issue gold-backed coins. You know that the US dollars used to be state issued, right, when they were before all that time. So you're going to start to see that more and more and more. And you're going to see states that if they're told by this federal government not to do this or not to do that, they're going to find other ways to react. Now, here's what Scott Adams says about the border and what we actually see and where this is headed, right? So he says that TDS mass hysteria might be a major cause of the border crisis, right? So here's his logic. He's saying if you build an identity around hating Trump, how do you say you were wrong when he was right? Wouldn't that make you the racist too, right? So it stays unfixed. The predictable outcome of Trump being right about anything is that people would hallucinate instead of acknowledging the obvious. It's a straightforward trigger for cognitive dissonance, guaranteed. The mental health frame is more predictive than the political frame whenever TDS is involved. Now, go back to what I just said about Texas and the gold-backed coins, right? Now, the reason I mentioned that, because of this, federal entities fighting, federal government now fighting with the state government wondering what it can do in response, right? So here's one frame that we can use. And this comes from a prediction that I made, that I've been talking about and tracking all week, that I've been tracking for more than a year now. So when Vivek first came on the stage, before he announced he was running for president, I've mentioned this story several times. I saw him on Tucker Carlson in November 2022. And I said, who the hell is this guy? What's he talking about? Like, how is it that I, someone who'd worked for CoinDesk, someone who'd been in the space for years, saw a news story relevant to my industry, right? So what Vivek came on that day to talk about wasn't politics, it wasn't Trump, it wasn't this. Vivek, the first time I saw him on national television in the United States on the Tucker Carlson show was to discuss CBDCs. It was one of the first times Tucker had ever talked about CBDCs on a show, central bank digital currencies, of course. And it's the reason why he started to become nationally prominent. I booked him as a speaker for Bitcoin 2023 before he announced he was running for president because of his segment. He was so well done, and I thought he was so coherent and effective in his little news hit that I started, who is this guy? Where is he coming from? I did some due diligence on his background. And once I felt confident enough, we were super happy to have him and all that stuff. Now, what I said and what I've pointed out to you before, and now Trump confirmed it yesterday, right? So I confirmed that the night of the Iowa caucuses a week ago, when Vivek dropped out, and the next day he was with Trump on stage in New Hampshire. And if you remember, they met afterwards and they talked about stuff, right? So Vivek shared what he spoke to Trump about. He had two priorities. It was pardoning Julian Assange on day one to make up for what we have called here many times the only day that I don't like Trump is the last day in office, right? It's his last day in office. It's a bad day. The last day in office when he didn't pardon those heroes was a bad day. So he says, on my first day now, I'm going to pardon these people. So I think Vivek already had an influence on him right there. But more importantly, I would say more importantly, even than the Julian Assange, Ed Snowden, Ross Ulbricht stories, as important as they are, he also warned Trump about CBDCs. The very first thing I ever recognized him for, the very first subject I ever heard his name attached to was the CBDC thing. So he comes out in that first meeting with Trump and talks about CBDCs. And what does Trump do last night, right? Trump now thanked Vivek for warning him about CBDCs. And remember what I said, Trump would always watch when he saw Vivek giving his speech. You can see Trump doing his A/B test. He's watching and noticing whenever the reactions are big. The bigger the reaction, you'd get more movement from Trump watching and observing, right? He's doing his test. It's what he does to test his material, like a comedian. Trump tests his material and policies exactly as a comedian does, right? They're not always, it's not necessarily, don't get confused with the funniness. He puts the funniness in regularly, but just in general, he'll see reactions and goes on that, right? So he does constant A/B testing the exact way a comedian does to test their material. And so you see him up there testing this material. You saw Vivek getting a reaction on CBDCs. And you could see, if you go back and watch the video, you'll see him moving. You'll see it clicking. They speak about it off camera or backstage, right? So he comes now and says, I want to give credit to Vivek for alerting me to the dangers of the CBDC. He came out and said it, right? He promises never will he allow one to be created, right? Vivek comes out and says, I respect Trump and give him full credit for being a strong leader who's willing to listen to the right ideas, right? So, but go back now for a second to what Scott Adams said, that TDS and mental health is a better predictive lens to figure out where the sludge people are headed, right? So what does that say? If Trump is now becoming a huge anti-CBDC guy because he sees it's good material, it's good content, he gets a good reaction, he's out there publicly thanking Vivek about it, Vivek's publicly thanking him for being smart to see the dangers, well, what do you think is going to happen? It's going to complete the cycle. It's going to complete the cycle that we've been talking about forever. It's going to make everything go woke versus Bitcoin. It's going to become CBDC versus Bitcoin. Exactly what we said the political realignment would be. And in the same way that the border has literally caused a border crisis in America, right? Because Trump wanted to build the wall. He can't build a wall, that's racist. So we get what we got. We got what we asked for, right? And now Trump going into the CBDC thing, I think is going to cause a similar reaction amongst the libtards. So they're going to start embracing, they're going to be embracing the CBDC. They're going to say, oh, it's great. My milk guilt is down. My beef guilt is down, all right? The CBDC told me my carbon footprint. It rewarded me for not planting my vegetables and eating industrial vegetables, right? It's going to do all these things. And we've seen it for a long time, right? We've seen that this is the formula, that this is what they're going to be doing going forward. So Trump acknowledging that, seeing that is really, really big news. And he's going to cause, I think, a mental health crisis related to CBDCs. And what is the answer there? Of course, it's Bitcoin, right? Now, the reason this will all sort of connect in terms of reality is because of the energy argument, right? The energy argument, remember what I said at the beginning with our fake news story, they're offering people lap dances in order to build wind turbines because incentives matter, right? Incentives matter more than anything. Incentives, convincing people to do stuff. I mean, I do it all day with my children. You give and you take. I don't do much like nagging and yelling at them and things like that. It's all incentive tricks, right? And I get them mostly to do what I want when I want. If you offer these rewards and all those kinds of things, right? If you just get into their wants and their fears, that trust me, all I have to do is say, do you want to be on the list? The list is not really a thing, right? It's sort of Christmas stuff, right? But it's just the list. I'm going to write a list, I say, or I'm going to write an email to Santa or whoever, right? And you should see the reaction. It's right. I have a whole fake money system called bonus. This is just bonus. You get bonus. If you do this, who wants bonus, right? Who wants bonus? I want bonus is just the fake accounting system. Sometimes it pays out whatever I end up giving them because you're giving them stuff anyway. You say, oh, that's the bonus, right? But I don't really count how much bonus they have. It's one day they're going to realize that I was a fiat manipulator of them, but that's, I think, good lesson, right? I think it's a good lesson. I'm a little worried about the day they realize that the whole bonus structure was a little bit of a scam. But as a Bitcoiner, they already understand the whole world in terms of heroes and villains and Bitcoiners and not Bitcoin. So they have a pretty good handle on that stuff. But again, go back to the incentives, right? It's lap dances versus what Marty Bent is talking about. So Marty Bent went to the Bitcoin Park Nashville show last week, the Nashville Energy and Mining Summit, and said, interestingly, that the energy professionals have arrived. Now, this is really important because it fits a predictive frame that I've been sharing with Bitcoiners from the early days. And it's something I use especially in event programming design. And what it looks like is I've predicted that, and I've noticed that you can actually use a prediction model that looks at human capital and professionals as they enter the Bitcoin space. So you can see who's defecting and leaving a professional environment where they were a professional for the Bitcoin version of that industry. So Wall Street is a very obvious one, right? People who left Wall Street, I've often said the reason they left was because some people like real risk, right? And Wall Street, by de-risking, by regulating, by turning everything into a bailout, quantitative easing, they actually turned Wall Street into a porno movie. It's a porno. There's no real risk. It's like, I'll be fine, right? It's just whacking off. And there are some people out there that won't do for them. It just won't do, right? I got this idea from talking with Arthur Hayes in the early days. And Arthur Hayes is sort of one of these guys. He's out there to risk. He's out there. It's not gambling per se, right? Gambling is something different. Gambling is luck. This isn't really luck. It's making asymmetric bets that have a huge payoff, and it's a risk-reward calculation, right? So the real people who love risk, who love Wall Street, not porno, right? The people who can't, porno isn't enough. Some people need the real thing, right? It won't, the other stuff won't work. And there are people out there like that. And those people got into Bitcoin early because there was no backstop. It was real risk. It was real risk reward. And it was real cost benefit analysis. It's what they wanted. It was real banging, not masturbating to porno. And so because of that, we got a lot of high IQ, awesome people that were great in their industry. You can see that in art too. It's happened in art, right? We saw it with the NFTs and crypto. We saw it in the early days already with the rare Pepes and Bitcoin. But I've been predicting for a long time that the next set of professionals, and they've already started, are going to be the energy people. And they're going to come big time. And they're going to come the same way the Wall Street people came. And that's what Marty has observed is happening, right? The energy professionals are here. So the Energy and Mining Summit this is from Marty Bent, was particularly exciting for me because it was the first mining event I've been to over the last 6 years that convinced me that top-notch operators and professionals from the energy sector have fully grokked Bitcoin and see an opportunity to leverage their skills and expertise to throw jet fuel on the mining industry. To date, miners have been fighting an uphill battle against their lack of experience with power markets and infrastructure buildouts. Even though the mining industry has matured considerably over the last few years, I believe this has been an outcome predominantly driven by pure grit, determination, and a deep understanding of the asymmetric opportunity. Even though miners deeply understand the asymmetric opportunity that Bitcoin mining presents in the world of electricity price arbitrage, the last 5 years or so have been a pure baptism of fire in the energy sector, filled with miners making mistakes when signing power purchase agreements, not understanding the logistics that go into energy infrastructure buildouts, and not knowing the nuances of the power generation side of things that can trip them up to that point. So they've learned enough and are going to advance, is what he's saying, right? And so again, getting the incentives right on that against the people who need the lap dances, right? Who do you think is going to win? How many lap dances can they pay for? It's got to be a lot, right? There's a lot of farmers out there. And how many wind turbines you got to build? A lot, right? So the good news is here, we're going to win this fight. And it's going to be another one of these instances where the things we're building are going to be better. And you're going to change people's mindsets. That's how you're going to get to a point where a place like Texas doesn't really care what the Supreme Court of the United States even says, right? They're going to enact policies that are good for them. Now, again, go back to this thing about Texas with its right to produce a gold-backed, not fractional reserve money, right? Because that's really what it comes down to. The prohibitions are not so much gold-backed. They're about fractional reserve banking. So those are what the restrictions on the states are. I can imagine a world where Texas, right, doesn't want to deal with the existential risk of the Federal Reserve, doesn't want to deal with getting told what they can and can't do by the Supreme Court, decides to wake up and exercise its sovereignty in a way that, again, would feed into a new political schism, which is around woke CBDCs and gold-backed or Bitcoin-backed money. So Texas is showing us where the fight is headed. And just like Scott Adams says, mental health frame is more predictive than a political frame, right? So again, what I'm saying here is what I've said many, many times, that we're seeing a situation where red and blue are dissolving. And it's becoming clear the real fight is between woke CBDCs and Bitcoin. And that will become the actual political schism that we're fighting. And I think even Trump is going to be fighting that, win, lose, or draw after 2024. So we're headed there. And then here's just an example of incentives and propagation structures and what we're up against, right? So you'll see, well, let me read this first, right? This comes from James Kirkpatrick, right? It's actually really funny if you take a step back and think about it. Whole cities where you can't find a single kid in public schools who can do basic math, and we have to say stuff like "Black girls are magic." Illegals butcher a kid, and the response in the media is about their cuisine, right? The world's richest man is subjected to a struggle session. So this is about Elon yesterday going to Nuremberg. Brought to a place so sacred you go to jail if you blaspheme it in most Western countries. This is necessary. We are told to protect those without privilege. The Supreme Court says states can't enforce immigration law because only the federal government can enforce immigration law, and the federal government doesn't want to. This, we are told, is a triumph of the rule of law. The most lucrative asset in America is membership in a protected class determined by race, gender, or sexual preference. It's so valuable that we keep having scandals about supposedly privileged classes faking their membership in oppressed classes. So this is King Spreading Bull, or Chief Spreading Bull. Some people call her Pocahontas. I don't. This, we are told, is necessary to defend a meritocratic and individualistic society where status isn't dependent on birth. And finally, the great and the good throughout the free world earnestly debate which leading candidates and parties we need to ban and arrest in order to defend democracy. People get offended if you laugh about this and think they're better than some tribe sacrificing virgins to appease some idol. It's priceless. And again, that's what I mean. People who actually are down this road are now just wallowing in severe mass hysteria. And the mass hysteria is actually more predictive and will lead all of these sludge people right to the CBDC. And the calling card of it is going to continue to be mainstream media. It really is the only node propagation system they have left. But just look at the panic it's in. All right. So there's a Senate debate, right, or Senate contest right now in the state of California. Right. So you've got one Republican. He was a former baseball player named Steve Garvey. And you got 3 or 4 Democrats, including Adam Schiff, right? Including Adam Schiff. So yesterday, Steve Garvey, who probably isn't going to win, but he came out and in debating with Adam Schiff says to Adam Schiff, "I believe you were censored for lying." So he says that to Adam Schiff. "I was censored," Schiff says, "I was censored for standing up to a corrupt president, sir." Garvey said, "You lied to 300 million people and you can't take that back." So this is all about, I was in the skiff, Schiff was in the skiff and saw the documents that prove Russia collusion, right? Now, here's all you need to know about where we're at in the war. This is like a war update, all right? So the propagation of the fiat system that will lead these people to wanting a CBDC because Trump doesn't want a CBDC, right? That's how this thing is going to get turbocharged. Here is what Politico had to do, okay? So I went looking for fake news on Politico today. And this Steve Garvey thing was the only thing I saw. Article after article, right? Here's what they say, all right? So this is just in a row. I'm going to read you the tweets from Politico. GOP Senate candidate Steve Garvey has to pray that nobody watched tonight's first California Senate debate, writes our California bureau chief. Our top takeaways from the first big debate. Steve Garvey's lack of grasp on nearly every issue he was asked about was startling. If the bar for GOP support is on the floor, he didn't do enough to clear it. We got more. Republican Steve Garvey's lack of grasp, he goes again, was startling. Garvey repeatedly struggled to fill minute-long answers. I have nothing that's truly etched in stone except what is truly right, he said on stage. Another one, how Steve Garvey became a punchline at the first California Senate debate. We got more. We're not done. Adam Schiff called Donald Trump the gravest threat to our democracy. Steve Garvey, the sole Republican on stage in tonight's debate, wouldn't answer a question about how a second Trump presidency would affect Americans, and Dems quickly went after him for it. Once a Dodger, always a Dodger. So they go on and on and on and on and on and on about Steve Garvey, right? How do you think that's going to work? Obviously, it's not going to, right? Go back to this whole world needing the media to propagate these things, right? So, and if it isn't the media convincing you to be guilty about your milk and meat, you got to go offer lap dances to the farmers to get them to change. Like it is either you're hypnotized and you have the mental illness, or they got to offer you lap dances in order to change, right? So Schiff and all of these people are going to force everyone politically to go into CBDCs versus Bitcoin as the actual proxy debate, right? And you're seeing it in other ways, right? Here's Bloomberg Energy. Here's Bloomberg Energy this week about incentives being broken in their green energy scam. This is Bloomberg Energy. Onshore wind power in the US hit rock bottom last year with just 7 gigawatts being built. This year, the industry expects a turnaround. Another one, bankers are lining up to do deals in ESG debt swaps that were created by Credit Suisse just a few years ago. Yeah, everyone's lining up. Everyone can't wait to deal with Credit Suisse and debt swaps. So there's article after article of this in, Europe's carbon market is heading for its worst start to a year since 2016 as a rapid expansion in renewables lowers the need for fossil fuels, right? So article after article about the fucked up nature of energy finance, and that bankers are lining up, right? They're lining up. The only place I see where this is, and again, remember, this is the American mindset. Now, and it's the only place, Europe and America, where they're obsessed with this stuff. Go abroad, China using more coal than ever. And here's one of the most amazing stories yesterday, and you didn't hear a word about it, right? It's India. India is going to commission a nuclear power reactor every single year, according to the Nuclear Power Corporation of India. And you're going to see, and the point of it is to end poverty in India. So you think that might work out if a bunch of Indian engineers start scaling nuclear power plants? And then America might need one or two. You don't think India building nuclear is almost as good for America as America building nuclear. America and India have connections. I mean, Vivek might be the vice president, right? So you're going to be able to see that the Indian-American relationship is probably going to be one of the most important in the 21st century. And I think the nuclear energy piece is going to cement that. And you're seeing it now already. They're not worried about woke CBDC, energy debt finance. They're just going to build the nuclear reactors. So the good news is Bitcoiners are about to become what I've been saying all year. The 2024 election is going to be about what we do, about the incentives we create in the energy system, and about just how much we can separate money and state in order to get a better state, one that we can actually understand and not suffer under. All right. The movie Dumb Money did a good job highlighting the Wall Street. It's a porno. Yeah. It's a no-risk porno, which we love. We love calling it that. All right. What do we got over there on Rumble? What is Rumble saying is going on? 1 1 second. Let me read some Rumble quotes. Oh, we got a big audience over on Rumble. We love it. All right. Good morning, everyone. Pour me another cup. Cheers, Stella. Steak for breakfast too, Stella 39. I have a climate-friendly windmill painting. Doing my DEI dumpster diving is real. Yeah. Your credit score is plummeting. Great day, all. No fear, more peace. Indeed. Yet, do you think Trump would actually endorse saving in Bitcoin and using it as a tool versus the central bank digital currency? Well, ordinary Bitcoin, my prediction is, yeah, I saw the new Robert Sepper, on the history of Zionism. I haven't seen it yet, though. Do I think he's going to endorse saving in Bitcoin? Yeah, I do. I think he's going to have to admit what's happened to the US dollar. And again, the blind spot that I try to mention all the time, ordinary Bitcoin, is that indeed American patriotism being bound up in the US dollar is a major problem. It's a major problem, right? It's what the Chinese don't have, right? Chinese people have patriotism in their country's history. I don't think they really care about the money part. And, even, a place like Texas, abdicating its right to create gold-backed money would be kind of like one of these instances where they didn't really understand at the time what was going on, and a bit like Trump, didn't really get the narratives at the time, right? He's a boomer, he's an older fella. I think in order to save the US dollar, to make it just food stamps alone, which is going to be just having it survive to be food stamps is going to be an accomplishment, I think. So I think he's going to do that, but Trump wouldn't, anything that becomes a loser, he's not a fan of, right? So it's going to become a loser. And I think that'll be enough. So I think Trump will endorse whatever is the winner. And once he sees that the dollar is a look, here's the truth, guys. Whatever people say, CBDCs are coming, here's the real frame. They're here. They're just not efficient enough yet, and they're not packaged in one unit. The idea of what the CBDCs can realize in the world is already here. It's already here, right? Kanye, Nigel Farage, anyone else in America who said wrong thing, Laura Loomer. You think Laura Loomer, her life would have been different in the past few years had there been CBDCs? It would have been the exact same. There would have been more Laura Loomers. There would have been more. And so it's just a question of scaling. CBDCs are a way to scale the scammy dollar system we're using today that Trump is already suffering under, right? So I think the dollar gets tied up in the woke bullshit and becomes a symbol of wokeism, exactly as Balaji has predicted and as I'm predicting here, right? Only Bitcoin can do the surgery required to separate fiat currencies from patriotism. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. We need to separate. It's not separate money and state. I think Veterans Cannabis has it perfect here. It's separating money and patriotism. That's America's own special quest, right? It's our special quest. And Trump is the kind of person that if he realizes this, he instantly models it to everyone, right? Even yesterday, we were talking about the voting machines and how it was shown that the voting machines were so easily hacked. All right. Trump getting involved in that argument is way more effective than Trump saying, did you see the video and all that? Now that he's starting to square in on actually credibility of the elections and the systems used and whether or not we even had an election, he's in much better place. And he can model, I look forward to him criticizing the cybersecurity of these machines. Once he groks cybersecurity, he's going to be a very dangerous person speaking about these subjects, as he often is. So I think that's where it's headed. I think he's going to have to embrace the winner And the winner is the one that isn't paying people lap dances to build wind farms. It's not the winner, right? The winner is the Indian one with all the nuclear reactors and what Marty Bent was saying about incentives building systems. So we're on our way, guys. We're on our way. Let me see if I got any more. No, I'm out of coffee. So I got to get another coffee. Thanks for coming today. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. We'll see you all tomorrow. Going to be another great day. We're getting closer and closer. It's how could 2024 get better than it's already been? Adam Schiff getting called out by Steve Garvey about being a liar is perfect, right? It's perfect. All right, team. Peace. Have a great day.